Today we're joined by Andrew Traucki. He is an Australian writer, director, and best known for his work in the natural horror genre, including films such as Blackwater, The Reef, and Blackwater Abyss. Andrew, thanks for coming on and talking with us today.
It's my pleasure. Great to be here.
Yeah. So you've been in the film industry for about 20 years. Congrats. That's a big accomplishment. Now, Can you take us back to 2006 when you formed your production company, Mysterious Light? How was that whole journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'd been slogging away at film in various forms for a long time. Prior to that, I'd been doing, rock clips and corporate videos, and I did a little TV show that's not very well known, and it's totally out of this genre. It was called Rocky Star. It was actually a sci-fi musical, if you can believe that. And that was a lot of fun, but as it is in the industry, at least here in Australia, it's a tough road. And so I just kept on writing and trying to get things made. And I had this big sci-fi I wanted to make, and it got pretty close, because here in Australia, the main way we get a lot of things funded is through government, as well as patching. It's not just government, but they add a bit, 20-30% of the budget sometimes. Anyway, we went to the government, and unfortunately it fell over, and I was pretty despondent, because this was going to be my big break, and I loved the film to bits, and I was sort of like a Mad Max in the air, so I had a lot of stuff in it that I really could relate to and love. And so I was pretty despondent, sitting there at home, just going, wow, this is a tough road. And I kind of realized I had to then, because that was a big budget film, probably 8-10 million, I kind of had to bring it back to smaller. As a first-time director, somebody who could, prove that they could do something on a smaller budget before anyone gave them another opportunity. So I started watching these low-budget films, and one of them was Open Water, which, classic film, really great film for what it was, I think. And at the same time, I had a couple of young kids, and my sister's brother, their uncle, had sent them a blow-up crocodile, which was sitting in the living room. And I was watching Open Water, and then I saw the crocodile. I went, well, we've got crocodiles here in Australia. So I'm going to try and do a low-budget crocodile film. And so I started researching, and I came across this true story about these guys who'd been washing their quad bikes up in the NT, Northern Territory, and one of them had slid into the river, and this crocodile had come along and taken him, and the other two guys had to rush up a tree and to survive. And that really sparked my imagination. So I started writing this, and I wrote it, and then I started getting traction straight away, because people going, yeah, this is a really a page turner. It's really thrilling. It's interesting. And then I had a methodology. I didn't want to go CGI or anything like that. I said, we can do this with real crocs. And that brought the budget right down. And so all of a sudden I was in that magic sweet spot where it was a low budget film that people liked. And yeah, I got the green light, and that was the sort of the birth of my feature film directing career.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
So have you always been a fan of the horror genre? And like, what films would you say have influenced the way that you make films?
Yeah. Look, I really like psychological thrillers. That's probably my biggest. Horror can be good or bad depending on how far it gets towards the blood. I'm not really into gore and all that sort of stuff. I'm much more about the mind games. Yep. So I gravitate a lot more to Hitchcock and people like that, rather than splatter. But yeah, of course, horror, when done right, is brilliant, because it really touches all those primitive buttons in our brains that make us scream and squirm and not be happy. So I'd say the genre I gravitate to most would be psychological thrillers and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So back in 2020, it was announced that a sequel was in development for The Reef, and that you would return. How does it feel to dive back into this franchise?
Yeah, that's a great question too, because to tell you the truth, I wanted to sort of move on. I've kind of been a little bit typecast as the croc shark guy. And I have been writing other stuff. I've written this fantastic black comedy called Melodica Vampire Slayer, which is like Spinal Tap meets Dracula, which I'd love to do, but everyone knows me as the croc shark guy. And so I was looking for a way to get back into it, because I don't mind doing them, but I wanted to do something different. I didn't want it to be just another, The Reef 2, exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I finally came across an angle when I went to see some theatre, and it was a play about domestic violence called Lethal Indifference, and it really brought home to me the problem with domestic violence in this country. And as I was looking around the theatre, I sort of realized that the people that this play was talking to, I don't know in America, but in Australia, a lot of theatres, older, white, middle class sort of population, and it's very, it doesn't attract a huge audience. So I started thinking, well, maybe if I wrote the right script, I could take this message out to a wider audience, still have a great shark thriller. Obviously I have to provide that, otherwise people are going to hate me. But at the same time, try and elevate this film a little bit by giving it some more relationships and making it a little bit more about something else. And so I also surf, and I know that in surfing world, sharks are also called the man in the grey suit. And so I put those two things together, and I started thinking, well, maybe if there's this domestic violence, murder or killing, and then it becomes about the shark, that can become a bit more allegorical while still being a shark thriller, a survival thriller. And that piqued my interest, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to try and write that. And so, yeah, that's how I got back into it. That's sort of why I did it again, because it was an idea that sort of took the shark film to another level for me.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
That's pretty awesome. That character, Nick, I actually wanted to ask you about that character and really dive into that character. So it's kind of cool that you gave us that backstory. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, domestic violence isn't just a problem there. It's a problem in the United States too. So kudos to you for putting it in there.
Thank you.
I thought that was amazing. I love psychological horror too. And to add that into a shark movie, super cool. So
thank you.
Nice.
I really appreciate that, because it's really hard when you've got two ideas and they're not necessarily sitting together that comfortably to mix and put them together. So it's not just a drama with people talking about domestic violence, not just a shark film. To find the balance was quite tricky.
Yeah.
It's funny. Dave does some therapy down there, and we actually talked about another film where you can see like stages, and she actually goes through an entire arc like in the movie. Was that your intention?
Yeah, look, I read a lot about PTSD and trauma and things like that. So I tried to make it as real as possible. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Another, sorry to cut you off, Josh, but just wanted to like tag on that. Another element that I thought was really cool is it can be really sometimes it's easier to help others when they're going through things than it is to help yourself. So she has to kind of force herself to go through something. But I did find it interesting, just as what Josh was talking about, when she sees the girls that she's with, and she sees them look shell-shocked at some points, and you just see her step up to the plate, like, guys, we got to pull together. And I thought that was really well done. I think Josh just pointed out something great about that character in general, but it was nice to see those little moments there.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
And speaking on that, in real life, when things happen, a lot of people are shell-shocked because they just don't know what to do. Was that intentional in this film?
Yeah, I've done a lot of research. There's a great book if you're into this sort of area called Deep Survival, which was written quite a few years ago, and I can't remember the author's name, but he dug deep into why some people survive in a extreme situation and why some people don't. And he came up with all these traits that you need to survive. As you can tell, I'm a survival junkie. I love reading this sort of stuff. And that's definitely right. Some people definitely freeze. They know, they just blank out.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the primitive response, isn't it? There's a fight or flight sort of, or there's the drop dead one, isn't there? Which is some animals when they sort of in a hugely threatening position just sort of comatize, and maybe that's what's happening there.
Yeah.
I like it. So it's pretty funny that you're known as the shark guy and you don't really want to be the shark guy anymore. So July 15th was World Shark Day. And this year I didn't do a countdown, but usually I do. I love sharks. I love shark movies. The Reef was one of my faves. My son was like, "You're interviewing that guy?" And I was like, "Yeah." So that was cool. And I just wanted to ask you, now that you've done a few of these, it's amazing to me how good the camera shots are in the water. Like you have the above and below, and they're just perfect. And I
thank
would like
you.
to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Especially writing and directing. I don't know if it plays out the same, but it looks good on screen.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Look, it's actually a lot of hard effort. We do it old school. Like, we're not in a tank. We're you know, I can send you some shots from set where we're out on a beach and we're up to our waists in water. And you know, if the wind blows, if the rain comes, if as what happened was one of the camera assistants trod on a ray and got a barb in her leg. You know, one day there was a shark out. You know, it was only a small reefy, about 4 or 5 foot, but it came through set. So we're in a very realistic looking set because it is the sea, and we're shooting out into that. And so that, I feel, it's hard. It's really hard getting into a wetsuit at 5 o'clock and not getting out of it till 6 o'clock, you know, in the afternoon. You know, you get all wrinkly and my script's getting all wet when, you know, it's a really difficult environment. But I think it does really add a certain level of realism to it, and it helps us to, you know, you got all the chop and all those sorts of things. And then try and make the transition. You know, you can either use that plane where the air turns to water in some way by putting a splash in or something, or so trying to play that game is good. Difficulty sometimes is making that transition on set, is that the water sometimes on set is only got a visibility of a foot or two. But yeah, no, we try very hard. I try very hard to keep it as real as possible within, you know, the world that I'm in, and a lot of that is actually the set.
Yeah.
So you had a real shark on set, is what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't on set that day. We were on the beach next to the water, and it was a little bit funny because the boy that's in the film, he was totally freaking out about sharks, and he was just putting some bread in the water or something. I don't know what, maybe it was his hamburger from lunch, and this shark just came along and started eating it. It was just like, ah! And then the next day we had to go out in that same water and you know, get him to act. But he was cool.
The kudos to you on working with the kids. I had watched this with my wife, kind of like on a date, and once the kids came up, she's like, no, I'm done. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but how was it working with the kids?
Oh, look, it's always hard with kids, because especially well, actually the girl Eva was very, very good. She'd already been going to acting school, but the boy Barnaby, he hadn't. So, you know, he was more like there to eat the lunch and kick the ball and talk to the crew and do that sort of stuff. But you know, look, they were great. They you know, especially Eva, like, she was like bang, bang, bang. I couldn't have asked for a better performance from someone who's only 12 or
she did a great job.
She did a really good. They both did. They both really, in the end, shine, I think. And yeah, she was really, really good.
Yeah.
So one other question, your buildup is perfect in not only the Reef, but the new Reef, Stalked, is so good. And can you please tell us your thought process on building that perfect suspense? Because a lot of people think they're doing it good and they're not, but this really translates.
I really appreciate that, because you know how many sales agents have told me, or told my how many distributors have told us, sales agents, oh, it takes too long to get to the shark. It's just like, you know, they want to kill in the first 5 or 7 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Well, I gave them one, but not necessarily from a shark. Anyway, yeah, look, for me, it is really going back to Hitchcock and anyone who knows how to play out. You know, Stephen King's another great influence on me. Like, he's got in his book on writing, I've forgotten the title, but he says the monster behind the door at the top of the staircase is much scarier than the monster in front of the door at the top of the staircase, saying that the human brain is a huge computer and it's going to start making up all this stuff. You know, you just have to suggest something. There's a shark in the water, and now it's going to say, but where is that shark? And it's going to be doing all this stuff. So let's draw that out as long as we can without it getting tedious, because at a certain point it gets too long. And let's just see how far we can take people before they're going, you can't, you know, where is it, and all that, and then you do something. So that's kind of my process. I just totally appreciate that a small moment. In fact, some of the best bits in films I think are when the small moment, you know, the boy goes back to get the toy or something like that. And you don't think, and it's just all of a sudden becomes mega creepy because, you know, there's a threat, and the filmmaker's not letting you know where the threat is, and then they're playing with you, and So that's the bit I actually really love, just trying to draw out the suspense, but not to the point where it becomes tedious.
Well, I'm going to actually disagree with Josh. The suspense gave me significant anxiety, and I was upset for the first like 45 minutes was like, you played with us, and it was done perfectly. I really did, actually. I love when a movie can actually make me feel something uncomfortable, like, because I seek that feeling. And there was these moments where I was like, oh, the shark's gonna come. Nope. And then like it was a guessing game, and you played with like, the fin coming out of the water. You played around with that a little bit, and it was just, you did all these little techniques that just kind of kept us guessing what was going to happen next. So that was really cool. It was actually like the perfect watching experience for a shark film, because you want that, I think, because like, what else about the shark experience is scary other than like the fact that they'll rip you apart, right?
I'm going to disagree there. My wife, she did not like the suspense, because when the shark did come, it caught her off guard, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I can't believe I fell for that."
Yeah, I also liked how you also played with the characters, and they were like questioning each other. Like, are you sure you seen the shark? I didn't see anything. And it's like, I'm like, did she really see something? At that point in time, I'm like, oh man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to hear all this, because that's exactly what I was trying for. So it's good to know that I've achieved it.
So I want to ask you a question about the shark footage itself. So as we mentioned, like the shark, the footage we see of the shark is great. The shark attacks look really good. The few times they're kind of like early on when they're coming up.
Sure.
How challenging is it to make a shark film, make the shark not look cheesy? Like, Josh has gotten us to watch some shark films, and it's like this computer generated stuff, or it's some sci-fi shark movies. Like, how hard is it to make a legit shark film and make it actually effective?
It's really hard to get the sharks real. You've first got to get the real footage, which is incredibly challenging, and then you've got to get the actors to act to that. So the thing is to get the shark footage, and I hope I don't want to destroy the magic of this film, but you got to get the footage, and then you got to get the actors to act to that, because obviously they've got to match, they've got to blend their actions. It's significantly hard, and I wouldn't do it if I wasn't like you guys. That I think it's Stephen King again, which says, once you see the zipper down the back of the monster's back, the game's over. So I'm a big believer that most a lot of good films are motivated by the villain or the protagonist rather than the hero. And I want my villain, for the want of a better word, to be as real and heavy as possible, so that threat is as real and heavy as possible. And so I'm happy to go a lot further to try and do that than just go, oh well, we'll just do a 3D shark. It won't look any good, because 3D is great, but you got to have a lot of money. So if you're doing the shallows or something, you can probably do a good shark, but at this budget level, there's no way we're going to be able to sustain a great 3D shark, and I need my villain to be really, really real and heavy.
I think I know the answer to this, but what's harder to create, a authentic looking shark or an authentic looking crocodile?
Yeah, they've both got their challenges. We were very lucky on Blackwater Abyss that there's this crazy zoologist, or lovely but crazy zoologist in Australia. He's a world authority on crocodiles. He teaches at the university and blah blah blah. He happens to have a 15-foot crocodile in his backyard, in a huge sort of in a pond that, and every time the BBC or anybody from overseas comes to do a natural history thing, that he uses that crocodile, because he's also got an underwater. He's actually made an underwater part to this thing, and so that was probably a lot more contained, because Adam is his name. He would just take us out to the back of his house, and we'd play with his crocodile called Smorg for 3 or 4 hours till Smorg got tired, and then that was that day's filming. Whereas this, it's much more challenging.
So now the original Reef was based on a true story of Ray Boundy. Is the sequel also based on a true story in some way?
No, it's just based on, everything I've read about domestic violence. And the idea for me was, there's no, I don't think there's one solution to domestic violence, but for me, the solution here, and what I tried to do in the film, is that the women's collaboration becomes how they survive this. So that's what guided the writing of this, that I wanted them to win, and I wanted it to be a collaborative effort. But no, it's not based on a true story.
Okay.
So I'd like to go back to the shark footage. When you were talking about the shark footage, so to make it all gel and make it look really good, I always thought that was editing, but it, like looking at this movie in particular, I think a lot of it is the camera shots as well.
Yeah.
And how the camera shots go back and forth. Can you elaborate on how you take those camera shots and mix it with the footage and then put the actors there as well?
Sure. So, giving my trade secret away, so the shark stuff is, generally composited in. And so we have to take a shot that will mean the angle is the same for the actor and the shark, otherwise they won't blend properly. So once we take the two shots, then, some amazing people who know how to use VFX software put them together. But yeah, getting the angles is a lot of thinking. You have to make sure the lighting's right, the angle's right, everything's right. You sometimes need to disturb the water so that you can then just put the fin in or whatever it is. So yeah, there's a lot of thinking that goes around it. And yeah, that's why you need to get the shark footage first. Go, okay, well, the shark's going to do this, so therefore the humans have to do that. So we'll shoot that from here, and then we're going to put them together.
Thanks for giving away the secrets.
Only to you guys. Only to you guys. I've said such nice things about my film, I had to.
So, looking at this as a sequel, and I know it's not like a continuation of a specific story.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges of working on a sequel as opposed to like kind of initiating the first of a series of films?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, obviously, I think using the name, people are going to refer back to the original film, and I guess they'll compare them. So that I'm hoping that I wanted to keep it in the same style, that sense of semi-realism. It's not over the top action, and it's stuff that could really happen, is what I'm trying to get across. So the style I tried to make very similar, although obviously the Reef Stalked, the story takes it further into a more conventional narrative, I guess. And I just kind of feel that they've both got to have that similar world, and then it's just always going to be interesting because it's going to be compared, I guess. And so it'll be interesting. I'm really fascinated to see how the comparisons go, because as I've said, I wanted to extend myself. I didn't want to just make the same film. So I'm interested to see if I've managed to do that and people feel that, or what the comparison between the two are.
Josh, what would you say? Not to put you on the spot, but like, I mean, you're a big fan of the first Reef, and did you watch this and like have that in mind as you were watching it?
So when I watched this, I was like, this could go either two ways. It could be like just a cash grab, or you could put a lot of effort in. And like I had told my wife, I was like, look, I don't know how this is going to be. But honestly, I like this one better than the first one, especially because when you did say it was based on a true story, the first one, the second one's not, but your buildup was perfect. And like watching it with my wife and watching her reaction while I'm reacting in the same way, I think added another element to it. But the psychological, I don't know how to say the psychologicalness of the movie, I think was better than the first one. And that is my opinion on this, as a whole.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. That's exactly what I tried to do. So to hear you say that is really fantastic. And I'm really happy to hear that. I'm not sure she liked it, but enjoyed or took your wife was because, I really think there's a lost demographic for these films, and it's women sort of, I don't know how your wife is, but, somewhere in the 20 to 40 range, that sort of really will come along for the ride on this as well.
Yeah.
So my son is another, he went through this huge shark phase, and now he won't watch cheesy shark movies. He will only watch like Jaws level shark movies. And luckily, like when this comes out, obviously I'm gonna get it. I have the first Reef, so
Oh, good on you.
Like we have a stack, and we're gonna watch it together, and I guarantee he's gonna like it.
Oh,
So
great. If it gets your son's seal of approval, I'll be very impressed.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Josh, how devastated are you that he's not watching cheesy shark films anymore?
I am a little devastated. Santa Jaws has become the yearly thing, and now I'm just all alone watching it at Christmas. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But
So
anyway,
Josh's review of this film, he's probably like the biggest shark film fan that I know. You know what I mean? And he's like right there with my son. They always talking about like their films, the horror films that they like of like with sharks in them. So my son, he can't wait to check it out either because I was telling him about it. So we'll see.
Oh, great. That's exciting too. And I just need to correct you, Josh. Not that I don't want to make shark films. It's just that I want to make other films as well.
Yeah.
You know what? If you make the vampire film, you got to have a scene where the vampire is stuck in the coffin and something's happening and he can't get out. Just like, because that happened in Spinal Tap. So I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah. No, totally.
Or you can just make a shark vampire movie.
Exactly. There you go. Someone's already writing that. As soon as they hear this, they'll start writing it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's scheduled to release next month, actually.
A shark vampire movie?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I can't remember the name of it, but it's like Sharkula, I believe.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We
didn't
will.
hear that from me.
Okay.
Anyway, so Andrew, I did have another question. As a writer and director, is there anything that you had wished that you did put in that you didn't, or anything you wish you could take out from the final product?
Yeah, it's always such a big journey from page to screen. There's a million compromises, there's a million rewrites. I was rewriting all the way through for various reasons. We got rained out one day. So, the scene at the beginning with the two sisters was meant to have a mother in it, but the mother didn't arrive on the plane. So, just things like that, But yeah, look, it's hard. It is hard because I think I've put 85% of the script on the screen, which is pretty amazing. I've got or even 90%. So that I'm very happy with that. There's always going to be bits where you go, we just had a little bit more time, a little bit more money. I could have done that a little better. So there's always going to be little bits, but on the whole, I'm pretty happy with the film, and it's pretty close to the script that was written.
That's good.
Sweet.
Yeah, I love hearing that because we've asked, Josh specifically has asked a number of directors that same question, and it's always nice to hear when you feel satisfied with your final product and feel like what you intended to be put on the screen is exactly what's going to get put on the screen for as close to as possible, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a journey. I'm not going to lie. I mean, quite frankly, the edit until the last week, I was just going, I was shaking my head. I mean, I'm probably my worst critic, but somehow in that last crazy week, we managed to change things up, and it seemed to drop into place a lot better than it had been. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a ride. But yeah, no, I'm pretty happy.
I don't think we asked this. How long was the whole filming process, and where did you guys film?
Sure. It started. Well, I'm a big believer in pre-production because that's so cheap. So I the more or I call it pre before you've got even, you just got a handful of people on, and that probably started in April last year, maybe even March, and then we started shooting in June at a place called Bone, which is in northern Australia. We needed warm water because we're shooting in June, which is winter, and people get cold pretty quickly. That's another problem you have with shooting outside, and we also needed an open horizon, something that much background so we could shoot into it. And we ended up, and we also needed a place that could, had let us work at waist deep most of the time. So we ended up at a place called Bone, which is, you would never have heard of it, but it's near a place called Townsville, which you probably still haven't heard of, but it's in Queensland, which you might have heard of.
Okay. All right, so I have to ask you this question. I thought of it before hearing you saying that you would like to not get typecasted too much, but if you were to make another Animals Attack movie, is there an idea of what type of, would you want to do something you've already done, or is there another animal that you think would be fun to create this type of film with?
Well, I think and not wanting to sound misanthropic, I think the most dangerous animal on this planet is probably us.
Yep.
So I'd love to do one with humans, but if I couldn't do that, gee, that's an interesting question. Look, the sort of creepy crawly things come to mind, spiders, leeches, things like that. They're pretty icky. You could probably get right into someone's, something like squirm or somebody's psychology by having something that sort of entered your body and did horrible things inside your brain or something,
Yeah.
So maybe something along those lines.
Yeah, that sounds pretty gross.
We'll be looking forward to that.
Well, Andrew, so after, this is releasing on Shudder and in theaters July 29th. The Reef Stalked, so everybody keep an eye out for that. But so after this project's done and released and we all enjoy it, what is next for you?
Yeah, so I've got 3 scripts I'm trying to peddle at the moment, but one's the vampire, the comedy, the black comedy. Another one's called The Wall, which is a take on the American Mexico wall. It might be a little bit too divisive, I'm thinking, but and then I've got this one called Demon Time, which is about I guess the log lines is about a woman who has to slay a demon before it opens the portal to hell. But I have to say, having read a lot of log lines lately, there seems to be a few of those out there, so I'm not sure. I've tried to make it quite different. I don't know, I've forgotten its name, but there's a wonderful Japanese ghost movie from the 60s, which had 3 films in it, and in one of them, a blind lute player or something unfortunately attracts a demon, and the Buddhist priest, to save him, paints his entire body with this sacred text, and that was an image that just kept me coming back to this film. So I've written it, and of course there's a scene where the woman has to get her body painted in this sacred text. So those are those 3, and then I'm sort of working on just things, bits and pieces. So yeah.
Can we go back to this idea about the wall again?
Yeah,
we're all interested in that.
All right. So the log line is, so there's a wall between Mexico and America, and then there's some vigilantes who make their own wall and then go and catch unfortunate migrants and make them run that wall.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that might be kind of divisive, but it would definitely be interesting.
Oh, it'd be interesting, all right. It's a good script. It's a real page turner, and it's got some great action in it. I'm just having a little bit of trouble convincing people that, it's commercial, I guess.
Yeah, I understand.
You should probably peddle that one in America to a very specific group, and you'll get it made. You'll get it.
Yeah, if you know who which group is, let me know, because
It all depends what what angle you're going and what that end message is. Because
the end message is that it's all not very good. So I don't think the right wing, the hard right, would like it.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Then go to the hard left.
Not really hard left either, but yeah, soft left.
Hey, go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, where can people find you and things like that? So
yeah, well, my production company is called Mysterious Light, and it doesn't come up very easily in a Google. If you put Mysterious Light Film Production Company, it might come up, and I'm contactable that way.
Okay, cool. All right, so again, just to recap, The Reef Stalked, theaters and on Shudder July 29th. Very exciting. I think people are going to love this. If you like shark movies, this is definitely one you are going to want to check out. And hey, we have something to look forward to on a Friday night on Shudder, because Joe Bob's obviously not on right now, so we can fill our time with some shark movies. So it sounds like a great time. So Andrew, thanks again for joining us.
No, it's been a pleasure, and I'm so happy you enjoyed the film. It's made my day.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man. Greatly appreciated. I can't wait to take my son to the theater. Hopefully it's showing in Rhode Island. We're the smallest state. Sometimes we miss out, but here's
excellent.
when we told Josh that this interview was going to happen and it was a sequel to The Reef, he sent an emoji of his head exploding. And I actually think that happened though. I think that was like just I can only imagine what he looked like in person when we told him this. He is a shark movie junkie, as we said.
Andrew, so I'm a huge like natural horror fan, sharks in particular. So
Yeah.
I literally went around the house and told everybody in the house, all my kids, my wife. I called my mom. Hey, guess what? Guess what? Hadn't even seen the film, but the first one was so good. I was like, I can't wait. I was really excited, and I was the only one in my house that was excited, and they were like, like we know it's happening. So yeah, there you go.
No, you were going to say you're the only one in your house who cared.
What is it you think about sharks that excites you so much?
I have no idea. Honestly, like when my son got into sharks, so I taught him to read, and then he started getting it. My daughter actually showed him Jaws when I was teaching him to read, and right then and there he was hooked. So we started reading books on Jaws together, and then I've always loved natural horror movies, and you know, especially reading. I'm a big reader, so I don't know, I just gravitate to that genre in particular, and sharks in particular. So I have tons of shark books. This is actually my next read. It's a shark book. Go figure. So I just gravitated to it, and when my son got into it, I got really into it, and then I started looking at all these underground shark films, and just I've probably seen almost every shark film in existence.
You're an expert.
Oh
Yeah. Some are good. Much.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
and some you put a shark in a title, they know people like me are gonna watch, so it's a real cash grab. So there's that too. You know, and that's just honesty. Like it is what it is. So
yeah. Fair.